There's something magnetic that cannot be explained through words. It's a quiet storm, a presence that walks into the room before the body does. No words, no announcements. Yet every glance seems to be pulled like gravity in that direction. We live in a world obsessed with performance, display, and noise. But what truly draws attention is the energy behind what's unspoken. And while many scramble to impress, posture, or prove, the man women notice first isn't chasing eyes, he commands them. Let's begin where attraction actually starts, in the subconscious. It's not what is done, but what is embodied. Because women don't simply respond to what's visible, they sense, they feel, they intuit. And when someone carries these 7 signals, she notices before she even realizes why. The first sign is stillness in presence. This is not the stillness of hesitation, it's the stillness of inner clarity. A man who is anchored, not over-explaining, not seeking approval. His body is relaxed, not rigid. He moves with intention. His presence whispers, "I know who I am," even in silence. That kind of energy makes a woman pause, not because it's loud, but because it's rare. Second, eye contact without conquest. There's a way to look that doesn't devour but sees. It doesn't inspect, it understands. It's not about piercing into someone but being fully with them. That gaze lingers not on the body but on the being. That subtle yet powerful distinction, she feels it, and it makes her wonder, what does he see in me that others miss? Third is the elegance of posture. Straight but not stiff. Shoulders that don't collapse inward because there's nothing to hide. A spine that holds dignity, not arrogance. The body tells a story, and when that story speaks of self-respect, emotional maturity, and grounded masculinity, it is silently loud. The fourth signal is attunement to space. He enters a room and doesn't rush to claim it. He scans, listens, senses. There's an intelligence in how he relates to the environment. He's not the loudest, but somehow everything moves around him. She notices because she feels seen by him, even when he's not looking directly at her. Then comes style without shouting. It's not about labels but alignment. The colors, the fabrics, the fit, it all echoes his personality. Not an attempt to impress, but a reflection of inner harmony. That quiet attention to detail suggests a life curated, not cluttered. And that, it's profoundly attractive. Sixth, emotional containment. He isn't spilling energy everywhere. He listens more than he speaks. He lets silence breathe. His energy doesn't leak through fidgeting, oversharing, or trying to dominate the moment. That self-possession, it breeds curiosity. She's not sure what he's thinking, but she wants to know. And finally, the invisible boundary of self-worth. Not the arrogance of "I deserve," but the dignity of "I belong." He doesn't seek to be chosen. He chooses. From this place, every interaction becomes voluntary, not desperate. That autonomy speaks louder than any pickup line ever could. She feels his freedom, and it invites her into hers. So what does this all mean? It means attraction is not about doing more, it's about being more present. In a world where everyone is shouting, stillness stands out. Where everyone is chasing, groundedness captivates. The woman notices not because she's looking, but because something in him awakens something in her. If there's a call to action today, it is this. Be the energy you want to attract. Forget the lines, forget the chase. Focus on how you carry your inner world, because the most powerful presence isn't performed, it's embodied. There's something unshakable about someone who walks into a room and doesn't feel the need to prove anything. He doesn't have to adjust his tone, puff out his chest, or constantly check his surroundings to see who's watching. His energy is self-contained, not because he's distant, but because he's rooted. Stillness in presence is not the absence of movement, it's the fullness of self. It's the magnetic calm that draws attention without effort. In relationships, this stillness becomes the safety a woman didn't know she was craving. When she engages with him, she's not pulled into chaos or unpredictability. She's invited into a space where emotional volatility is replaced by emotional availability. And that stillness, it's the signal that says, you're safe here. I'm not reacting to you, I'm relating to you. Stillness in presence is seductive in its restraint. It's the subtle control of energy, the decision not to overshare, overreact, or overcompensate. In intimacy, this becomes a deep advantage. A man who is still within himself knows how to witness his partner's vulnerability without rushing to fix it or silence it. He doesn't try to dominate the moment, he holds it. He creates a container that allows another person to unfold, to breathe, to be. That's the difference between being noticed and being remembered, because when she feels the space to express herself without fear of judgment or interruption, she begins to open physically, emotionally, erotically. In a culture that glorifies performance and noise, stillness is rebellious. It resists the need to be validated through constant doing, and it requires an emotional discipline, a maturity that doesn't need to escalate conflict to feel alive. Stillness in presence isn't passive, it's deeply active. It's the quiet strength that holds tension without collapsing. In the bedroom, this translates into something incredibly powerful, the ability to tune in without rushing ahead, to read body language, to breathe with her, to hold back when most would push forward. That kind of energetic mastery doesn't just feel good, it builds trust, which is the bedrock of real desire. Most people mistake attraction for what's said, done, or flaunted, but the kind of presence that truly captures a woman's attention is often invisible. It's the pause before the response. It's the ability to sit in discomfort without reaching for control. It's the unwavering eye contact that doesn't need to consume her, it simply sees her. That's the difference. She doesn't feel like prey in his presence. She feels chosen, not chased. Held, not handled. Safe, not scanned. And in that safety, she softens, not because she's weak, but because she's met. Stillness, in this way, becomes an erotic language of its own. What she remembers isn't always what was said. It's how she felt in that silence, in that grounded presence where time seemed to slow down, and suddenly she could hear her own desires more clearly just by being near him. There's a way someone looks at you that doesn't feel like you're being watched. It feels like you're being seen, not evaluated, not scanned, seen. That kind of eye contact is rare, because most people use their eyes to assert control or mask insecurity. But when someone can hold your gaze without trying to win, conquer, or devour, something opens. In the subtle world of attraction and intimacy, eye contact becomes a form of communication more powerful than words. It's a mirror and a mirror that reflects self-possession, and a window that invites emotional access. Women notice this not because it's aggressive, but because it's present, and in that presence there is power. Eye contact without conquest is deeply intimate. It's the kind of gaze that doesn't rush, doesn't push, and doesn't retreat. It lingers not on the physical, but on the emotional frequency. In a relationship, this kind of eye contact tells a woman something crucial. I see more than your surface. That subtle message opens a deeper channel of connection. It softens the walls, it invites emotional safety, not because he's trying to make her feel special, but because he's available enough to witness her without distortion. In intimacy, this gaze becomes an anchor. While others might use touch or talk to fill space, he uses silence and gaze to hold it. And she doesn't feel exposed, she feels acknowledged. In our modern dating culture, prolonged eye contact often feels foreign. People are so busy looking for the next thing, they forget to look into the one in front of them. But someone who offers sustained, gentle, and attuned eye contact signals something far more rare. He is not escaping. He is not performing. He is not looking for a way out. He's with her. And in that rare, undistracted attention, she finds herself opening in ways that feel unforced and fluid. Eye contact like this becomes an erotic slow burn, not the fire that scorches but the one that smolders, inviting her to meet him in the quiet intensity of mutual presence. During physical intimacy, this type of gaze deepens the experience. It's not just about the act, it's about the emotional voltage flowing between them. A woman can feel when someone is attuned to her beyond the surface. She can sense when the gaze is not just on her body, but resonating with her mood, her pace, her rhythm. This is where true erotic intelligence lives, not in technique, but in attention. When a man can look at her as though there's nowhere else he'd rather be, she feels chosen, not for how she performs, but for how she exists. That gaze tells her, I'm not trying to take from you, I'm trying to meet you. It's the type of eye contact that disarms the guarded, that reaches places touch cannot, that says everything the mouth is too afraid to voice and everything the heart is secretly yearning to hear. The way someone holds their body tells a story long before they speak. Posture isn't just physical, it's psychological, emotional, and deeply relational. It whispers messages about how we feel about ourselves, what we've been through, and what we're available for. And in intimacy, that language becomes even more amplified. A man who carries himself with natural elegance doesn't need to posture or dominate. He doesn't use his body to threaten, to perform, or to plead for validation. His posture isn't a performance, it's a reflection. Straight, open, relaxed. It speaks of someone who is not only aware of himself, but at peace within himself. And in a world where many lead with masks or muscle, this quiet embodiment of dignity is unforgettable. Women pick up on these cues instinctively. She sees the way his shoulders don't slump inward in self-protection, nor are they puffed out in overcompensation. Instead, he holds himself in a way that suggests, I don't need to be the loudest to be felt. There's no arrogance, just groundedness. His chest is open, but not in a way that demands attention, in a way that welcomes interaction. His movements are deliberate but fluid, suggesting he trusts his body and doesn't need to rush or tense up. That kind of embodied confidence signals emotional maturity, and it creates an immediate sense of safety. She's not reading nervous energy. She's not watching a man try to win the room. She's watching a man who's already in the room, and fully at ease with it. In the context of relationship, posture becomes part of how a woman feels emotionally held. It's not just about how someone sits or stands, it's about how they show up. Are they collapsing under pressure or standing steady in discomfort? Are they leaning in out of presence or reaching out of desperation? A woman feels it. She senses when his posture is rooted in calm rather than chaos. She relaxes because his body language tells her, you can lean here if you need to. There's no need to perform when the other person is already offering stability simply through how they occupy space. That posture becomes an unspoken promise. I am here, and I'm not folding. Even in intimate moments, the posture of a man reveals volumes. Is he in tune with her pace, or is he pushing forward out of his own anxiety? Is he able to hold tension without trying to control it? The way he holds himself mirrors the way he will hold her, and this is something women respond to, not just emotionally but physically, because the nervous system doesn't lie. The body reveals what the mouth cannot articulate. And when she experiences a man whose posture radiates ease, restraint, and quiet strength, her own body responds with trust. Her guard softens, her desire awakens, not because of what he's doing, but because of how he's being. It's not dominance that draws her closer, it's depth. It's the comfort of knowing she's in the presence of someone who doesn't shrink or inflate, but remains whole no matter who's watching. There is something magnetic about someone who doesn't rush to dominate a space, but instead takes a moment to feel it, to read the room not out of fear or performance, but out of awareness. Attunement to space is a subtle yet powerful quality. It reveals emotional intelligence that can't be faked. When a man walks into a room and doesn't immediately seek to be seen but rather becomes deeply present to everything around him, he sends a different message. I am not here to take, I am here to relate. This shift, though quiet, is deeply felt, especially by women who have learned to scan their environment for safety, authenticity, and attunement. His ability to be sensitive to his surroundings reflects his ability to be sensitive in relationships, where presence is not about control but connection. In intimacy, this sensitivity becomes a kind of emotional radar. He picks up on energy, on tone, on rhythm, without needing everything to be said out loud. A woman doesn't have to spell herself out for him to understand her mood or emotional state. She doesn't have to demand attention. He gives it before she even realizes she needed it. That kind of attunement builds emotional security. It tells her, you don't have to perform for me to notice you. And when a woman feels noticed in this quiet, non-invasive way, she becomes more open, more available emotionally, and more expressive physically, because her body begins to relax into the safety of being seen without being scrutinized. Attunement is also about knowing how to shift. A man who is attuned knows when to lean in and when to give space. He can feel when something needs softness instead of solution. He knows when silence is more powerful than speech. That adaptability doesn't come from manipulation, it comes from deep listening. In relationships, this shows up in the smallest moments. He notices her tension without needing to diagnose it. He feels the shift in her tone and responds with empathy rather than defensiveness. He observes her pace during intimacy and matches it rather than overriding it with his own. This is the kind of subtlety that creates erotic trust, not because of grand gestures but because of micro-adjustments made from a place of care. And in public spaces, women notice this attentiveness immediately. While others are trying to control the atmosphere or impress strangers, he simply adjusts to what's already happening. His awareness becomes his elegance. His ability to listen with his entire body becomes more attractive than words could ever be. Because when a man is attuned to space, he isn't just reacting, he's responding. And that responsiveness isn't just about the room, it's about her. Her energy, her boundaries, her comfort, her desire. She feels it when he moves without disruption, when he engages without intrusion. And in those moments, she realizes she's not being pursued, she's being honored. It's not loud charm or flashy charisma that captures her. It's the man who pays attention, not just to her face, but to the unspoken dance of space and emotion she lives in. Let me know if you'd like this adapted for a relationship coaching script, podcast discussion topic, or body language guide. Style, in its truest form, is not about fabric or fashion, it's about embodiment. It's the visual reflection of how someone feels about themselves. A man who dresses with quiet intention isn't simply choosing clothes, he's making a statement without saying a word. And women pick up on this immediately. His style doesn't scream for attention, it speaks with alignment. The way his shirt fits his shoulders, the calm in his color choices, the minimalism of his accessories, all of it reveals that he's in tune with who he is. He's not trying to mimic trends or dress to impress strangers. He wears himself, not just his outfit. And in relationship dynamics, this kind of aesthetic coherence translates into emotional coherence. What you see matches what you feel. When someone's outward appearance feels congruent with their internal world, it builds trust. A woman feels more drawn not to the labels, but to the man who clearly knows himself. His style whispers, "I take care of me." Not in a showy, obsessive way, but in a grounded, intentional way. That same attentiveness he applies to how he presents himself often echoes in how he touches, how he listens, and how he makes decisions. She sees that he's not sloppy with his appearance. So she wonders, might he be precise with her heart, with her body, with her story? That curiosity sparks desire, not just physical but emotional. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. The little details, a subtle scent, the way he cuffs his sleeves, how his shoes are clean but worn in, create an intimacy before any words are exchanged. Style also reflects emotional boundaries. A man who knows how to dress well doesn't need to overexpose to feel desirable, nor does he hide behind oversized layers to feel safe. He balances accessibility and mystery. He reveals just enough, and that controlled invitation is deeply attractive. In relationships, this becomes a model for intimacy itself, not all at once, not guarded forever, but slowly, deliberately, with increasing depth. He knows that less is often more, and that simplicity is not lack, it's refinement. This shows up in how he communicates too. He doesn't speak just to fill silence. He's not performing through verbosity. He's curated, clear, and aware of what tone suits the moment. Just like his wardrobe, his words are chosen with care. In physical intimacy, this kind of self-awareness shows. He notices textures, how sheets feel, how his partner breathes, how her skin reacts to touch. A man who pays attention to how his collar sits against his neck often pays attention to how her body responds to his. It's the same muscle of mindfulness. And women feel it. She notices the care he takes in how he appears, not out of vanity but out of self-respect. That care doesn't stop at him. It extends to how he holds her, how he undresses her, how he creates aesthetic and emotional beauty within the intimate space they share. His style becomes an invitation. I've done the inner work, and I'd love to meet you from that place. There is an undeniable allure to someone who doesn't need to prove their worth, someone whose presence speaks louder than performance. Emotional containment and self-worth are not about stoicism or detachment, they are about self-mastery. A man who holds his emotional energy with intention doesn't allow it to spill into every interaction. He doesn't interrupt silence with nervous chatter, nor does he fill space with exaggerated emotion to gain sympathy or control. Instead, he is composed, grounded, not repressed but refined. That refinement creates a magnetic tension. In a relationship, this is felt immediately. He doesn't swing between emotional extremes, he doesn't panic at discomfort. His stillness under pressure doesn't disconnect him from others, it draws them in. A woman feels this. When she's around a man who has emotional containment, she experiences something many rarely offer: safety without sedation, depth without drama. He allows her to have her emotional waves without being capsized by them. He listens, not to respond, not to fix, but to receive. He isn't distracted by his own emotional chaos, so he has the bandwidth to hold hers. That makes her feel not just heard but held. It's a form of quiet leadership, where his grounded emotional presence invites her to relax more deeply into her own. This creates a feedback loop of safety and sensuality, because when a woman doesn't have to manage his emotional reactivity, she becomes free to explore the full spectrum of her own desires and expression. In intimacy, this emotional self-possession becomes intensely erotic. He doesn't rush through moments or push past her signals. He waits, he breathes, he notices. His self-worth doesn't hinge on her reactions, so he's not easily discouraged or distracted. That kind of inner strength becomes deeply sensual. It allows her to drop into vulnerability without fear of being overwhelmed by his insecurities. When he touches her, it's with attention, not assumption. When he looks at her, it's not to claim her, it's to understand her. And that understanding is what creates lasting emotional intimacy. It's not passion born from instability, it's desire born from safety. Self-worth also shows in how he sets boundaries. He doesn't need to dominate to feel respected. He doesn't need to withdraw to feel powerful. He simply knows his line and holds it. That kind of clarity builds trust. In a relationship, it becomes the difference between chaos and consistency. She knows what to expect, not because he's rigid, but because he's reliable. She doesn't have to guess where she stands because he knows where he stands. That self-containment allows for emotional freedom. It's what makes his presence both calming and compelling. Not needy, not controlling, just whole. And in a world where so many perform, overshare, or manipulate to be seen, someone who doesn't rely on external validation to feel valuable stands out. He doesn't chase approval, he embodies alignment, he's not driven by reaction, he's moved by intention. That kind of man doesn't seduce with chaos, he draws her in with quiet certainty, emotional depth, and the silent power of knowing who he is,